I do think we can go to Manchester Airport. Owen Sheehan, good morning to you.
Good morning. I think 40 seconds is what I have it down as the period of time that I was actually happy for Manchester United. And my camera here is like trained on Colm, and he is just beaming from ear to ear. It is Cheshire Cat-like. It's almost like, what is it in Entourage when Harry Gold shows up with the paintball gun and shoots all his enemies in the office. I was expecting Colm to show up at one this morning, and I'm not surprised that text was sent to Ger. But good stuff in getting out in front of it, Ger.
Oh,
I mean, apparently you were supposed to see the future with regards to Jadon Sancho. Is that where we're at when it comes to analysing the take around Jadon Sancho, that we were actually predicting the future about how good he will be in times that we had not seen yet?
I agree, Owen. Thank you for coming right into my rescue in defence. What was Old Trafford like, and why are you sitting beside the only loud baby in Manchester Airport?
It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, to be fair, I actually missed the Jadon Sancho goal. I didn't get to see it in the flesh. All I got to hear was the cacophony of noise from outside the stadium because we were actually locked out. I think they were quite worried of a kind of storming of Old Trafford again last night, that they ended up closing down all the shutters. So if you weren't in the stadium before 7:45 last night, you weren't getting in, certainly from a media perspective. So I was obviously covering all the fan stuff. I walked through the protest actually all the way to Old Trafford. And by the time I got to the staircase to try and take my seat at about 10 to 8, it was like, no, sorry, you're not getting in. And I was like, what's going on here? And they were like, we actually don't know, and we don't know if you'll be able to get in. But eventually did get in for the second goal, and that was pretty special as well. And I think, regardless of who you support, see Marcus Rashford back in the score sheet is a pretty positive story.
Yeah, even though he looked offside, even when the VAR came through, I was like, oh, that's definitely offside. And they're like, oh, they've managed to somehow grandfather this in. I mean, look, that's what happens when you're the biggest club in the world and you're down in your luck, I suppose. A bit like that Icelandic team against Shelburne the other night. And in terms of the great cathedrals of world sport, everybody always complains about the state of Old Trafford and it's such a shithole these days. But, I mean, it's still amazing when you go there, right?
Oh, absolutely unbelievable. And I think probably the lack of the big screen actually helps in that regard. I'm not sure why, but it just kind of like being there and not, and I guess the kind of lack, the sense of mystery around some of the decisions, I guess, and the fact that kind of like feeds into the siege mentality that the United fans have, where if there's a decision made and they think it's against their team and they've been screwed over, they can absolutely continue that sense of injustice because they won't be able to see it on the big screen. They won't be able to be corrected, and I think that's one little small thing that helps. It's tight, it probably needs upgrading, but it's a phenomenal theatre, to pardon the pun. Like, the thing is, like, if you are late, everybody's raging with you. Like, I caused a serious scene trying to get into the press box last night because I was so late, and there was a man beside me who was not happy whatsoever. I got shouted at on my first time in the press box in Old Trafford last night. So, but other than that, just a phenomenal stadium. And I think it's hard not to come away from it last night thinking, God, they are definitely back. But at the same time, there's been so many moments over the past few seasons where they have managed to take Liverpool down or beat Manchester City, and we know that doesn't come with a level of consistency. But maybe Ten Hag is that guy who can finally bring that.
My first experience in the Old Trafford press box was a little bit different to Owen's. I chose this exact fixture last season when United, of course, lost 5-0. So I picked a good one as a so-called Manchester United fan. But Owen, you're like the area there, the press box is quite close to the away fans. Like, were the Avram Grant face masks on show last night? Were the chants fairly decent from the Liverpool section in that end?
I'm not quite sure. Like, the best chant of the night was definitely "You're just a shit Casemiro" when Klopp made a substitution for Henderson coming off for Fabinho, and I tweeted it in regards to Fabinho coming off, and I think Andy Mitten tweeted it in regards to Henderson coming off, and I tweeted it regarding Fabinho, and then somebody tweeted me being like, which one is it? Is it a chant around Henderson or is it a chant around Fabinho? And I presume it was Fabinho, given the whole Brazilian element of it, but that was definitely the best chant. With regards to the Liverpool fans, like, I think that the United the supporters I was chatting to afterwards, and we'll bring you that video tomorrow morning when it comes to the United fans, they were pretty much sticking to boot and being like, yeah, they were very quiet all night. To be fair, I thought the Salah goal really gave them a kick, and I thought there was going to be a bit more of a nervous energy around Old Trafford at that point, but it never really felt like it, and I never really felt like Liverpool were actually going to equalise after that, which is a serious worry, you'd have thought, for Jurgen Klopp. And is that actually potentially going to be the bigger story as the season progresses? Like, is what we're seeing from Liverpool over the first 3 games actually a serious red flag for what's about to come this season?
What do you think, having watched them last night? Like, 'cause they looked lifeless, they looked lacking energy, they looked like they were lacking direction. They couldn't get Salah in the game at all. I mean, he scores and it's completely off scraps, as opposed to something where there's been a pattern of play. They found a weakness. They've given him the ball again and again, and the third time he's tried something, it's come off. It was not that at all. So what were they like in person?
Yeah, not great at all. And as I said, just no sense that they were actually ever going to score. Like Manchester United, like thoroughly the better team last night. Now, the one thing I would say is that Darwin Núñez has picked a very bad time to get suspended. Like that would have been a totally different element to the game last night. Obviously, I mean, poor Lisandro Martinez, like, and the constant talk around him being 5'9", like that would have been even more blown up around this game had he been up against whatever Darwin Núñez is, 6'2", 6'3", before last night, and no doubt Liverpool would have targeted that. So for Roberto Firmino to be in his place, I think that was a huge setback for Liverpool going into last night, and I think that's something that probably held them back a little bit, because it feels sometimes like they're playing with one less attacker, and I think Manchester United were delighted to see that. They were delighted to see Firmino on the pitch as it turned out, even though I'm sure, I think somebody on the show yesterday morning was saying that maybe Firmino would have started anyway. It was maybe a game for him. In hindsight, though, I think that's clearly just not the case. He was actually a bit of a drawback to Liverpool in how they attacked. I thought, like, if we're looking for like small crumbs of positivity, I thought Carvalho had a big impact on the game when he came on. I don't think Harvey Elliott was as bad as maybe some people would suggest after the game either. So those two players in particular, because I hadn't seen him play in the flesh before, I thought they actually did all right.
I think Phil was saying outside that he thought that Harvey Elliott was their best player. So the spectrum of opinion about that, and I guess like a Rorschach test, you see what you want to see. Okay, and then from Manchester United's perspective, how much of an attacking plan did it look like they had in person as well? What was the movement like? Because that was one of the things, the 14 kilometres that they didn't run and then were forced to run on Sunday training. What were they actually like?
Yeah, like it's definitely kind of like frustrating watching someone like Anthony Martial, who obviously is the first substitution off the bench, which felt pointed that he comes on before Cristiano Ronaldo. Just how close to offside he constantly is, and it constantly feels like he lives there. It feels that if he can address that element of his game, then he's going to have a big part to play for Ten Hag this season in big games, because it does feel that on the counter attack, there's not many players better than him, because he can get the ball beyond the last defender, and then also the way he can pick a pass as well as outstanding. So I think they were pretty much content to know that Liverpool would have a lot of possession, and that they would know that they would be able to counter pretty quickly. And after that point, then they'd be able to kill him on the counter attack, which was probably the plan and something that they brought to the table against some of the other top teams. Like I still think that there's a lot to be found out about Manchester United. Like, what happens when they've got 60% of the ball again? Because that was the case against Brentford. They had the lion's share of possession. I think they actually had more attempts than Brentford on the day, if I'm not mistaken. So those two statistics, when they're in Manchester United's favour, as you'd expect they would be in the majority of games at Old Trafford, how will they then play? So I think last night was a brilliant confidence boost for them. But let's just see how things develop when they're expected to win games.
Which players impressed you in person?
Malacia and Martinez, in particular, the two new boys. I thought Varane was very composed. Like, I don't think Harry Maguire is getting back in that team, and like it was mostly the other two. And I think that was like a massive boon for Erik ten Hag, because we've been constantly told over the last few weeks that he's been hung out to dry a little bit in the transfer market, where they don't have a proper recruitment policy, and therefore he is forced to sign players like Martinez and Malacia, and they were excellent last night. Just the level of aggression from those players, and Dalot as well. I know I've just literally name-checked the back four, so I guess that's it. The back four and the level of aggression that they brought to their one-on-one battles was seriously impressive, because you would have to say before the game you would have given Liverpool the edge, even allowing for Firmino, you would have given Liverpool the edge in every single one of those attackers versus defenders one-to-ones. And as it turned out, Manchester United had a clean sweep in that department.
McTominay was pretty good. Was he not?
Yeah,
As everybody's like, what, was he not? Was he not pretty good?
Yeah, it was good.
He had a good game, yeah.
He was all right.
That through ball in the first half was sensational.
Yeah, it was. I saw that back. I thought Fred actually was okay when he came on as well, putting a few good tackles. And are we saying that Bruno Fernandes is now back as well?
Well, once Cristiano's gone, he's like
different man.
Reverse Samson.
And Owen, like, if you're just to concentrate then and say one specific area, maybe up front, did anybody else stand out for you? Anybody else very good in person?
No.
Just wondering.
Yeah. He looks the part, but the fans love him. And I mean, like, if you're
Who's
leaving,
that? Who?
I think it's Mr. J Sancho,
Oh.
Jaden S. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, good player, good
I
bit of
didn't
stuff.
notice, yeah.
Expecting
He's
big
got a good
things.
Underrated, I'd say.
The new Jesse Lingard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they absolutely love him. And I think the fact that he managed to leave a Liverpool player on his arse as well
Two of
before he
them.
puts the ball to the
And
back of
caused
the
the
net, two of
fight
them.
between two players as well. Oh, with
Yeah,
3 touches
well,
of the
yeah.
ball. That's effective play, isn't it?
But that's
Well,
it's the intensity from the very outset. Like you knew straight away when Martinez put the big hit on Salah, and there was a few giggles from Salah. Like United were just not up for it, and then you'd worry because when Ronaldo's on that team, Ronaldo came off the bench, he didn't make any runs, he didn't move, hardly surprising. But and Harry Maguire as well. Like he's an FA Cup centre half. He's a backup centre half for United now this season. Although he's got a World Cup with England to look forward to.
Does he? Does he have a World Cup with England to look forward to? He's out of that team too, I think.
What are the
He's playing for United? He's not playing for England.
The transfer window closes Thursday week. What are the odds Maguire moves?
I think the Chelsea rumours were just his agent probably stoking the fire, trying to get United to get him back in the team. But I mean, he's not getting back in that.
I think
lineup.
Owen witnessed the start of a new era last night. I think they've a new left back and a new centre half starting. I think Maguire and Shaw are in trouble.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Malacia.
How do you go back to them? How do you possibly go back to them after that performance?
Like the thing is, I mean, Martinez is not 6'3". He's still 5'9". I mean, apparently this is going to be something that is going to catch him out. And Maguire is taller than Martinez, therefore a better Premier League centre back. If we're to believe some of the things that we hear, like I mean, it would seem a little bit drastic if his career was going to be over now. Just sheer volume of numbers at the back. An FA Cup defender, I think, is a good shout. Just one other kind of observation on Ten Hag, and Shane, you kind of touched on it there earlier on, is that like you kind of maybe pointed to the fact that he felt like more of a dugout manager in the first 2 games. Maybe his tail was between his legs a little bit. He still is very much a dugout manager when Manchester United are winning. Like the technical area last night, it's usually in modern football when you're there, you can just watch the 2 guys are almost like 2 Jedi Masters going head to head without the lightsabers almost. But last night it's just Jurgen Klopp going mad in his technical area, and it's like, where's Ten Hag? And he's sitting in the dugout quite a bit. I'm sure, to be fair, you picked it up on TV as well, but I just constantly picture him like stroking his goatee while sitting in the dugout, and he certainly wasn't prancing around his technical area as much as his opposite number last night. He's a more thoughtful. I think that's just a thoughtful Ten Hag that we saw in the first 2 games, and that's not going to change whether they're winning or losing.
Are we saying there's just a hangover with Liverpool, that their recruitment hasn't been enough to make up for the 7 or 8 first choice players? I mean, is there 4 first choice players really who are injured?
I don't know, to be honest. I think that there's something more there. Like Alisson looked a little bit shaky last night, didn't he? Like there was a couple of moments here and there. Like I'm sure maybe that just comes from the fact that you don't have your full first choice midfield available. You've got less of a control in the match, and that just seeps into the rest of the team. Like there is still the fact that they were unlucky. Unlucky is maybe a bit strong, but you could maybe put, if you're looking at a glass half full, you could say they were unlucky against Crystal Palace, and they were the better team that day, and they should have come away with 3 points. So that they haven't had the rub of the green in that regard. But they were comfortably second best last night, I thought, which is a real worry. In the space of 12 months, they've gone from being so much better than Manchester United, where scoring 5 goals possibly even flattered Manchester United on the day in terms of what they conceded. So yeah, it's a big drop off from that performance last year, and it's hard to know quite what's going on, because I don't think the lack of midfield options alone explains it.
Okay, Owen, stay with us. It's 7:46 this morning. We might just dim the sound of the airport for a second. This is OTB AM. We're live each morning with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Owen in Manchester all the way up to 8:10. Daniel Harris is going to join us at 8:10. We'll bring in the sports pages at 8:35. More reflection from the Liverpool side of things with Gareth Roberts at around about 8:50. Niamh Briggs is going to join us from Japan, where Ireland had a massive win at the weekend at 9:10. And then you're going to hear from Emma Brennan about the boxing and the Bernard Dunn story, which broke yesterday, where it looks like he's heading over to be the high performance director for the Indian boxing team in advance of the Olympic Games in Paris next year. At 7:47, you can roll your comments in on youtube.com/off the ball. Or of course, you can tweet the show at Off the Ball. How excited are you now?
I don't want to get fully carried away, but I
Why
think the attitude shift, because I've seen so much crap over the last 2 years.
This feels a little bit different, right?
It does. Like Ronaldo, I was always, and I spoke about this briefly outside before we started, I was always in the Ronaldo in camp, because I thought the goals he brought, like I was in Old Trafford for the Atalanta game last year, for the Villarreal game last year, where he literally pulled United out of the ashes. But looking at it last night, those players are only going to excel when Ronaldo is not in the team.
That's like a toxic relationship where you've got all these great moments, and the good times are really good.
Yeah,
and
nostalgia
then
bias.
That's what you remember, but actually you don't remember all the fights and the niggling and the undermining and the gaslighting and the negging. You forget it.
Well, it's the whole Ronaldo on Instagram talk, like interacting with random fan banter pages where he's like, "I'm going to speak in 2 weeks," and Bruno was asked about it last night after the game, and he said he knows what Ronaldo was going to say, whether he's going to stay or leave. But that he's not going to reveal what it is he's going to say. Like, why is he waiting 2 weeks? That is toxic.
Bruno should have just spat it out.
Yeah, just say it. Get it over with.
Because in 2 weeks he won't be at the club.
Yeah,
that's what he means.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah,
it looks like he's going to go out the door now. Like last night seemed like
going to take him. I cancel the contract. I would cancel the contract at this stage.
Yeah. It's who's going to take him is the issue.
You know what I noticed? On TV anyway. Maybe Eoin has a different interpretation of it, but I noticed a quite muted reaction when he came on.
Yeah,
when Ronaldo came on. Eoin, what was it like in the stadium?
Well, to be honest, so he's obviously one of a triple substitution, and I don't know why this came into my head. I was like, why isn't he the last sub that they announced? The grand finale.
Impact,
it's like
middle,
it's like 3, 2, 1, and I was like number 7, Ronaldo. They didn't even. It's obviously something they don't ever do at Old Trafford. They didn't name his. Say Cristiano Ronaldo. Like I would have said Cristiano Ronaldo.
They do when he scores. They say Cristiano. I noticed that as well on TV. I was surprised they didn't say the full. It was Alan Keegan is the voice, the stadium PA guy in Old Trafford. And I actually thought that was a bit strange last night that he didn't.
Well, yeah, it's rare that he comes on as a substitute, but in his debut against Bolton in 2003, he was introduced as Ronaldo because he very, very originally went by Ronaldo, and then it became Cristiano. But that's the first time I've heard it since. But how many times has Ronaldo come on as a sub at Old Trafford? True. But I noticed immediate reaction. He's kind of become like a group of friends, and they've been friends since they were childhood, but this guy doesn't really suit the group of friends anymore, and they're like, well, he's our friend for life now, so we can't get rid of him. And he kind of has that vibe. He's stenching out the joint, that's what I'm trying to say. But I do love him for what he's done for the club.
Well, that was the pre-match, wasn't it? Where he's like coming over and he's hugging Gary Neville and he's hugging Keane, and Keane's giving him a bit of like, come on, what are you doing? That was all. You said you sat and watched the whole coverage.
Yeah, I from 6:30 yesterday evening to 11 p.m. after the match. Like it was just box office. Like you had Stormzy landed in after the game as well.
I missed all this, so I went to bed straight away.
Like Keane, for me, Casemiro, I know the Sky are playing up to United fans loving this kind of thing, but Casemiro walks straight over to Roy Keane, shakes his hand, a lovely little hug in a moment. The passing of the mantle from the legend.
That's pretty interesting, isn't it? We obviously assume because Roy Keane is like the biggest sports person in Irish history because of everything that happened, that I don't know, but the 5 times Champions League winner from Brazil,
straight over to him.
It's mad, isn't it? I thought that was interesting.
He's a student of the game, Casemiro.
Similar positions,
I'm serious. He goes on Y Scout a lot, and in his spare time watches games to analyse other players and compares his stats against others.
Right.
So I have no doubt that Casemiro would look on YouTube like best holding midfielders, best midfielders of all time, enter, sits back, skip ad.
Yeah,
it's going to be good. And Roy Keane comes up.
There's no ads on his version, I'd say.
What's Ronaldo's game? What's Ronaldo's game going over to the Sky Sports crew? Like,
That's pointed.
I accidentally misplaced the pass there. What's he thinking? What's going through his head?
Well,
what's he getting at there?
Dave Jones said always centre stage, didn't he? Was that his little kind of explanation for it all? I love the way Roy Keane's like, oh, you're not paying any attention to me. Oh, hang on, I'm not going to pay any attention to you now for a minute. Sorry, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
it's Cristiano.
That was great. I love that line.
Adrian Barry pointed in last night into our work group that that the snub of Carragher was interesting in itself, and that it could have, Rio Ferdinand saying in his YouTube post game last night as well, that it could well have been the fact that Carragher's been quite outspoken that Ronaldo has been the problem at United, that he has been a bit toxic, whereas Keane and Neville have kind of held back from maybe going that far. But that was interesting. Maybe he's just snubbing the Liverpool man in front of all the Old Trafford faithful. But it was probably an interesting one as well. But the Sky coverage, even just to see Cara and Neville in the centre circle before the game, literally almost warming up with the players. You're like, they couldn't be any closer, and they started walking even closer to the United centre circle. And then Keane slagging Klopp as well, saying, "Oh, you were a bit sloppy."
I mean, and then after I'm surprised I didn't see, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn there was a call back from Keane about the sloppiness afterwards, because they were pretty
100%.
sloppy.
Yeah.
Liverpool were dreadful last night.
Like straight from the off, and I actually noticed that straight after the first goal, when you see Van Dijk and Milner kind of going at it, it's not really a big deal because teammates have arguments when the goals get conceded, but you don't really see it from this Liverpool team. You don't see those moments, and to see that was a little bit of not necessarily a chink in the armour, but it was certainly
I think it's important. I do think it's important. I think I get that Van Dijk is in the wrong position and doesn't address the situation at all, but I'm literally Milner's biggest fan on this programme, and for years I've been saying he's one of England's greatest professionals, but that was horrific. I actually think he puts Alisson off. He buys the Sancho dummy so badly that there's no recovery from that, and then to turn around and go, it's actually your fault. It's well, you just put your goalkeeper off.
Yeah, he did. He did buy
Bruno
it.
saying, here's this corridor here. Look, just sweep the ball down the corridor. All you got to do. Come on, Jaden. Hurry it up. Come on.
But I did think
He
Van
still
Dijk.
nearly screwed it up.
I thought Van Dijk was
what
worse.
part did he nearly screw up?
I actually thought Van Dijk's reaction to that was worse than Milner's. I understood what Milner was thinking. He was like, right, this is going to be a straight off shot from Sancho.
Yeah.
Dive in, try and block it. He looks like a fool, obviously, in the end. But
I think
Van Dijk should have made himself bigger. As the lad said afterwards on Sky, he almost made himself as small as possible. Van Dijk,
Well,
which was just mad.
but by diving in, Milner
Made his mind up.
well, and the keepers.
Yeah.
Do you know? There's I just think, I don't know. And look, maybe Alisson's confidence is a bit low, or something's gone wrong with the centre back, something's gone wrong with the midfield, and it's this kind of fairly sticky situation.
They do look light. They did look light. And I thought at half time I was quite confident that United were going to win the game because I didn't see a threat from Liverpool. Carvalho was good when he came on. Here's one for you, Ger. Who's going to finish higher in the table? Manchester United or Liverpool?
Liverpool are going to finish higher in the table over the course of the season. Newcastle's still going to finish ahead of Manchester United.
What's Manchester Airport like going?
It's nice, yeah. It's still the sort of zombies of the night before, kind of wandering towards their gates. Flights to Dublin and to Cork out of here today, so good contingent. A plane full of Colm flying over yesterday morning. Cork accents talking about Manchester United. I was actually sitting beside Jamie Wall on the flight over, and to be fair, his entire opinion on Manchester United was bleak because of Harry Maguire. So I'd say he's particularly pleased that they got that decision right, and literally just going past me right now as well. And they got that decision right last night as they dropped him. So yeah, that worked out pretty well. I mean, that's what yesterday comes down to, is the big decisions for Ten Hag, and it's a number of significant wins for Ten Hag last night, I think, with regards to the selection, with regards to some of the players that stood up for him, and most importantly, the fact that Ronaldo and Maguire had nothing to do with it, really. Nothing to do with the win.
I think that's central, right? Because the rumours were coming out that the players believe that they should play a different style of play, and it was back to the players are in charge, and Solskjaer is just there as some kind of bauble on the front to take the blame and take the money and do the press conferences. But Ten Hag is not the same. So if the players are oh, we don't want to do this, okay, grand, off you go. Don't play. Because they actually, it looked like they were doing what they were supposed to do last night. Even Bruno's running seemed less headless than it has in the past.
Yeah, it still goes back to, let's just see how this plays out over the next few weeks, when it's the cut and thrust of 3 afternoon games, either in Old Trafford or away from home. To be fair, I mean, this is obviously something you would say after the game if you're a fan who protested yesterday, but they were making the point that there was such an energy in the stadium after what happened outside the stadium beforehand, and it just felt like a momentous occasion, that there was no way that they weren't going to start well yesterday. There was no way that they couldn't have the kick that they required. And that was the central tenet of what went wrong against Brentford, really, is that Ten Hag wouldn't have taken them out for a training session the next day if he felt they had worked hard enough, if he felt that there was enough of those intangibles like heart and all that last Saturday week. So they had to refine that yesterday, and a game at Old Trafford against Liverpool perversely is an easy way to find that, and it's an easy time to find that. So I'm just interested in how this develops when things settle down and they kind of come back to sort of a week in, week out routine nature of being Manchester United players.
A big win for the Glazers, of course, as well. That team that they've invested so much money in, and then Casemiro comes and he's the crowd, and the constant shots him, and they're joking, how am I going to get in the team? And it's it's all coming up. It's all coming up Glazers. That wasn't the case pre-match. As you said, you walked through the protests.
Yeah, so there was a significant protest, to be fair. I'm not sure the exact numbers that they put on it yesterday. I'm really bad at like estimating numbers, but there was at least like 150,000. No, I'm only joking. There was like, so it started at like the Tollgate pub, about 15 minutes from Old Trafford, kind of congregated there from about 5 o'clock, half 5, and then the crowds then left there at 7 o'clock before getting to the Trinity statue at 7:30. And to be fair, it did take over the entirety of Talbot Road, which is, like, for people who haven't been to Old Trafford, like the big wide road with like 2 lanes each, and completely taken over, and then on to Busby Way after that as well. This was a huge congregation. Like, obviously I wasn't there in 2021. I don't think there have been too many protests of this scale outside Old Trafford. It was really interesting being in the middle of it all, because I felt standing outside the toll gate and maybe in and around the pub that even like you're walking around with a tripod, you're walking around with a big red mic flag, you're pretty conspicuous. And there was definitely kind of like an edginess around there. People like really didn't want to say much, and obviously totally fair enough, but there was just a sense of edginess. Whereas when the whole thing started and you're walking through the whole protest, chatting to people at the front, at the middle, at the back, everybody's so friendly. Everybody's just wants what's best for the club. And once it got going, it was absolutely brilliant. No sign of trouble whatsoever. And I guess there was just a situation where there was 1,000 people or so outside the stadium, I'd say, as the game actually kicked off. So there was a huge police presence there just to try and hold them back, because they were, I think, quite conscious of what happened in April of last year, and they didn't want that to reoccur. And then, as we said earlier on, that obviously had a knock-on impact on people trying to get into the game late.
Well, let's have a look at the video now.
Today, the protest, it's all behind one cause, which is getting away the Glazers. That's all the causes today. There's people here that are here for fan ownership. There's people here that want us to be bought by another billionaire or whatever. There's people here that think that, you know, you should be owned by nation states and things like that. I don't believe that. I'm here today for fan ownership. And I think a lot of Mancunians are here today for fan ownership, fan representation and working class representation back in English football, because it's been missing from the Premier League for a long time now.
That's obviously one of the slight dividing factors, is that people want the quick Newcastle or Manchester City fix, but a lot of Manchester United fans would say that Manchester United don't actually need that they are a sustainable enough brand.
Manchester United don't need blood money or want it. At the end of the day, Manchester United is... We came back from the Munich air disaster. That's what Manchester United's about. It's a family club. It's a club for the community. It's a club for Manchester. It's not a club for billionaires to come in and leech off and be parasitical owners on. We've seen it too many times in English football. It's not just a Manchester United issue today. You've seen it at Bury. You've seen it at Bolton. You've seen it at other football clubs as well throughout the football leagues. And we need independent regulators and fan ownership models brought into football now. That is what we're asking for today.
Look, last time I've been to the game was like a year ago, and like obviously we have had some struggles throughout the year, and what I'm seeing today is just like brings like a a nice emotion in my heart, and I really do believe this is going to be a turning point. It's a hard game against a really good team, full respect to them, but then we're the greatest team in the world, we're the greatest team in England, and I really do believe that today is going to be the turning point for us. And I really hope for a really good win.
Well, I just said to somebody over there, you can feel the energy. You can feel the energy when you stood here, the emotion, the frustration. It's all building up, and, it's a nice feeling, honestly.
It feels like something big is about to happen.
Absolutely, you know, and that's why I'm here myself, taking the day off work today specifically, just to come here and be part of it. Hey! Go on.
How many years have you been a Manchester United fan for?
Well, this is what I said to these lads over there that are shouting my name. I said, I'm here on behalf of my dad, my auntie, my grandma, my granddad, everyone in my family. I'm here to represent today, and so it goes back generations, and that's why I'm here.
You're not going to the game tonight?
No, not tonight, no.
You've stopped going to games?
Yes, I have, yes.
Is that because of the ownership?
Yes, yeah, it is, yeah.
At what point in the Glazers' ownership did you stop going to games?
After Fergie's reign, really, we didn't go forward. We ended up started going backwards, and then the transfers was getting up. They weren't going to put any money in for the transfers. They're just buying players just for the sake of it, really, like panic buying. And it's a shame how it's been, how they've done the business, really.
Is it hard to not go to watch Manchester United?
It is hard, yeah, it is. Very hard. It's even hard watching them on TV, really, how they're performing. I mean, they need somebody, a foot up the backside to get motivated, to get him start winning again. But it's just a damn shame how it's turned out, really.
It's my first time coming to Manchester. It's a great experience so far. Loving the vibes. You know, it's great. I'm from Jamaica, so looking forward to the experience. It's been great so far. It's been great.
It's incredible the turnout and just the pure volume around here, right?
Yeah, it's great. Great turnout. I enjoy the peaceful protest, but you know, looking forward to the match against Liverpool.
Yeah, we'll get in on time, right?
Yeah, we should. About 45 minutes left.
We're moving really quickly.
Yeah, we are. We definitely are.
So when it comes to the Glazers, how long have you been anti-Glazer for?
About the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I got tired of some of the decisions, managerial choices. You know, we need to plan properly.
Yeah.
The best time when to get rid of a coach. I think Ole did a good job at his part, but after the season he came second. We should have swapped out for a top-class manager.
Yeah.
Ten Hag was there. We should have gone for Ten Hag from that time.
You think Ten Hag is the guy?
I do think Ten Hag is the guy. I do.
Nice.
I do appreciate him as a coach. It's going to take some time, though. I actually do want to back him. I think they need to give him the support, the real support that he deserves, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's the biggest one by far, to be fair, and it's actually it's nice to see that it's peaceful and not got out of hand quickly.
Do you think it could actually have some sort of impact on where the club is going?
I'd like to think so. I mean, it's the only thing we've got to try, really. I mean, I'm an FC United season ticket holder, so I've been doing this sort of since the Glazers first came in, but ultimately the only way we're going to achieve anything is by doing it peacefully, getting people to notice it, and there's no point doing anything sort of violent. So if numbers are like this every week, I don't see why not. It's pressure, and it's the commercial will dip down as sponsors see what's going on. It's all we can do.
Well, that's a really good point. This isn't the last time we're going to see this.
I hope not. I certainly hope not. I mean, obviously a sale's not going to be a quick process, and neither's kind of this. And as long as people can stick with it and sort of, I don't think it's a case of seeing change, but I think as long as people can see numbers grow, then we've got to. It's all we can do, really.
Right, really interesting stuff there, Eoin. The atmosphere didn't seem particularly anything other than united, to steal a word. There was no nastiness, there was no specific edge to it as the evening progressed, was there?
No, not at all, actually. And yeah, as I said, the only kind of time was just obviously a few curt no's and really kind of get away from me when I was walking around with a microphone before things started, but literally nothing to speak of other than that. And I think everybody involved would have been pretty happy with that. What's going to be interesting is that if the ownership does leave the club, what will then happen? Then I suspect is when the divisions might start to show, if they haven't already, which is with regards to what sort of model they want to take the club forward. Is it going to be a fan-owned model? Is it going to be Britain's richest man? Is it going to be a nation state? I think that's probably where the debate lies. And of course, those debates are happening right now, but they were pretty united for obvious reasons last night.
Yeah, the Glazers out is the unifying thing that brings that crowd together. But afterwards, what happens is actually not going to be decided by that crowd. It's going to be decided ultimately by the Glazers and who they sell to. So I guess that's a story for another day. Then the tribalism that you see and you witness there, you kind of forget it sometimes, because when what we see here in Ireland, unless you are a match goer, is you see the stuff in the stadium where the stadiums are generally full and there's an away end and then 3/4 of the rest of the stadium is full. But the bits outside, that's where the colour of these matches are. And that's why it's actually worth people going over to see these games.
100%. And the fact that there was this protest was only actually completely added to the whole experience, like where you feel that there's kind of like this sort of semi-social movement happening kind of in tandem with the football itself. Which is, it's pretty cool to see up close. Like I would say afterwards, like for people to go over to matches and stuff like that, there doesn't seem to be like one central hub for people to congregate afterwards. Like as I say, I'm going to be bringing you like the fan reaction tomorrow morning with regards to people celebrating. But like for purely selfish reasons, it's not fish in a barrel. There's not just like one place where Manchester United fans are. Some of them go into the city, some of them hang around different pubs, but there isn't just like one place where they all stay. So it took a bit of work. It took a bit of walking around and actually trying to find people. I mean, what an absolute disgrace that was.
And the hardest working man in show business, Owen. I mean, we understand that you were late because you were editing, obviously, and you're bleary-eyed because you weren't up drinking. You're just, I mean, obviously this is your natural disposition anyway, but you're specifically bleary-eyed this morning because of all the late night editing you had to do to bring us this top quality content this morning.
Thank you so much. It's like my inner monologue there. You read out the strongly worded email that I sent to you word for word there, Jared. Thank you very much.
Owen, we're going to let you go and get your flight, and I guess you'll be back in with us tomorrow where we'll get your hot take on the new Mayo Dream Team that has taken over, unless you want to give us 8 seconds on it now.
Well, I just think I think it's kind of like, is it redemption for Kevin McStay and Liam McHale? Or like, I mean, because they definitely came away from previous processes pretty poisoned by the whole thing, saying we will never go back in again. So I find it A, interesting that they went back in for another bite of the cherry, and B, interesting that they've got the job. So, I mean, Mayo is an endlessly fascinating county, and that's not going to change next year. In fact, this probably makes them more interesting going into 23.
And a 4-year term.
Is that right? I hadn't seen that.
A 4-year term, yeah.
Wow. That is an interesting one. Like, so he's in it for the long haul. I just had wrongly assumed that McStay's chance as Mayo manager had passed him by, and maybe he had kind of passed the job by as well, where he was ready for it a few years ago, and maybe 5 years down the line he was happy enough doing his punditry and maybe thinking that it wasn't for him anymore. It was totally wrong. So that's going to be fascinating, and I know for a fact that McHale is hungry to get back in there as well. Like, we've had him on the show quite a lot over the last few years, and I think he's pretty much put that on the record himself that I'd love to have got that job, just involved the next day in the Mayo setup, and now he's got it.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll get more on that a little bit later on in the show. Owen, good stuff, top quality work. Thanks a million.
Cheers, chat to you.